Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to Westminster and our International Overdose Awareness Day event. We are so happy to have the few that's in the house and those that are with us live streaming. And this started out to be an International Overdose Awareness Day, but on Monday, President Biden made it Overdose Awareness Week. And the proclamation is hanging on the door right outside when you come in the door. And so it's real important that we tell Ward 6's story, because we have a unique story. You know, I want to just take a moment and remember the lives lost to overdoses in the last year, and those that we lost in January when we had the major spike. So if we could take a moment, please. And it's okay to say their name out loud. Let's make sure that we represent them. So let's say their names. They are greatly missed, and the family members really miss them. And so it is our job at Westminster, the program, Harm Reduction Westminster, the community, to not forget their names, but to do more to prevent overdoses. Getting people into treatment when they're ready, getting people the equipment for harm reduction when they're not quite ready, and we being non-judgmental. I think that that's one of the key things, is being non-judgmental and to listen intensely with purpose. Not thinking about how you're going to tell them that what they're doing is wrong, but just listening to their story, because they have powerful stories. So we're changing things up a little bit because of some last-minute cancellations. So I'm going to ask Reverend Brian to give us a few words, and then we're going to have a community conversation.
Thank you, George. I'm grateful for all of you being here tonight, and I'm really grateful for George, who is a real champion for health and wellness in our community, and he just goes above and beyond, as I'm sure all the rest of you do as well. This is really such a critical issue, isn't it? I mean, that in our community, the folk that we live with, that we play with, that we interact with, are carrying such hurt and pain, and it just keeps seems like it just keeps going on and on and on, and it's not going to be unless the rest of us step up and into the gap, like you all are doing, that we're really going to be able to bring a new way to interpret and understand this. This is a long haul. This is a long process. There are no easy answers here. There's no simple public policy that's going to make this thing go away. It's all about being present with one another. And, you know, this is a real great challenge to building community. And that's what I think we all say. You know, those words flow out of our lips easily, but it's complicated. It's really difficult. And so I'm just grateful for those of you who stay in the fight and stay in the mix, and just try and bring that experience that you have and that hope and that love that you carry with you into this whole process. So I'm grateful. On behalf of Westminster, thank you all for being here, and thank you, George, for all that you're doing in the community.
Thank you, Rev. It is a great pleasure that I introduce our MC for the night. I met Anthony about 2 years ago when we were all on Zoom then, and we were telling our stories. And he came to that, and he brought his whole self and was very honest in his conversation. He's also a comedian, so he knows how to do the balance to keep us entertained, but talking about the new reality. He hails from North Carolina, is a district resident who is taking comedy and storytelling on the East Coast by storm. A natural comedian, Anthony has hit the ground running. His clean yet edgy Southern intellectual witty humor will have you reeling with laughter. Anthony is the 2021 recipient of the DC Mayor Bowser prestigious Mayoral Arts Award for Excellence in Performing Arts. Taking the funny to the masses, he was a participant in the 2021 DC Comedy Festival, 2021 Six City Cleveland Comedy Festival, and the 2021 Memphis Urban Laugh Festival. He has graced the stage of the John F. Kennedy Center, the DC Improv, the Broadway, the West Side, and the Greenwich Village Comedy Club in New York City, Flappers, and the Ice House Comedy Club in LA. You can catch him locally at the DC Improv, DC Draft House, the Pier Bourbon Comedy Loft, Busboy and Poet, and the Wonderland Ballroom. Anthony is currently a show host every first Wednesday of the month for Busboy and Poet, 450 K Street Northeast. He also produced several comedy shows in the DMV area, like 7 Mile Minute. Anthony can be found on social media outlets. And so with that, I want to introduce Anthony.
Sounds like I need to shorten my bio a little bit. Is this on? Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Testing, okay. Beautiful people, make some noise. If you're a beautiful person, make some noise. Beautiful people, beautiful people, beautiful people. Oh, such vanity. I love a vain crowd, you know? It just gets me going in the morning. Just for introduction purposes, again, thank you, George. I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Anthony Oakes. I'm originally from North Carolina. Anybody ever been to North Carolina? Okay, North Carolina in the house. We make cigarettes. It's one of our claim to fames. And just a little, I'm just gonna let you know about me. I'm gonna say some off the cuff stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna be what you're used to. You're gonna be like, oh my God, did he say that? But some of it is necessary. You know what I'm saying? One thing, I can't believe that I'm turning 47 this year. Yes, you know what the answer is. Good genetics and cocaine. And I say that because I'm a recovering cocaine addict. I've been clean for over 6 years. You can clap for that because that was, yeah. I think we know how hard it is, you know? But yeah, it was very difficult to give up that narcotic. I think that, you know, in thinking about my addiction, I never thought that I would find love. You know, I never thought that I would find my purpose in life. And if I did, I would just snort it. But I did find those things, and I'm grateful, and I just want to share, like, how it came to be. I moved up here about 8 years ago from North Carolina, moved to DC, just trying to get away from the drug. But the drug is going to follow you wherever you go. When you're not, you know, if you haven't made up in your mind to tackle it, it's just gonna follow you. And that's what it did. It followed me here to DC. I was telling my beautiful sister right here that one night I got so high. I mean, I was high as a Georgia pine. And, oh, so you know how high that was, okay? I was high as Cuda Brown, I'm telling you. And I went in my room and I just burst into tears. I burst into tears, and just a little backstory. I grew up in the church. Both of my parents are ministers. So I went through that whole thing of, as I was telling her earlier, of, oh, we need to pray for it. We need to pray it out of you. We need to lay hands on you to get rid of that drug demon. And then when they did that, I just left and did coke. Because one thing about that is prayer does work, but it does not work without work. You have to put the work in. Faith without works is dead. So you can pray until you're blue in the face. Nothing's going to come of it until you put the work in. So I had this conversation with the Creator in my room, high as a kite, and I just talked, and I was like, look, I am so tired of getting high. I'm tired of getting high. I'm tired of wasting my money. I'm tired of living from check to check because I'm spending all my money on coke. It was crazy. I'm tired of not finding love when I feel like I give love, but it's not reciprocated. I'm tired of not having a purpose in life. I don't even want to be here anymore at this point. Why am I here? And then this is crazy, but I did ask, now, God, if I so happen to lose a bag of coke in my room, could you just show me a sign where it is? You know what I'm saying? And, it's funny, but it's not funny because it's real life. These are real life situations that happen. Now, after that conversation, 2 weeks later, well, let me backtrack a little bit. I stopped doing coke for a month after doing it for primarily almost every day. I stopped for a month and then I relapsed. And it showed me that it was my environment, that was a part of what I was going through. It was my environment. I lived with my best friend. We both got high. When I stopped, they continued to get high. You know what I'm saying? And I couldn't escape it. I would just come home from work and boom, there's an 8-ball on the table. What am I to do? So I decided to move out, change my environment. 2 weeks later, I met my now fiance. 2 weeks after that, I started doing comedy. And it was a wake-up call for me personally. I try to have the most candid conversations with people that I could possibly have. Because, even coming, and I just appreciate you, Reverend, all the things that you do in this church to combat what we're going through. It really helps because it helps to destigmatize drug addiction. And that's what I am working for and working towards, to destigmatize drug addiction so that it doesn't have to be that hard for the next person. Do we understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Are y'all in my corner? Yeah. Are y'all in the corner of other drug addicts who can't verbalize like me, who don't look like me? It's a lot. I appreciate your candor and your honesty and all that you do in the community. Again, my name is Anthony Oakes. My story is similar to other stories out here in the community. I just want to do the work, and I appreciate all of you for doing the work, especially George. If y'all could give George a round of applause. I appreciate it. Now we're going to move on to the next segment. So we're going to have a small speech or presentation. I want y'all to start clapping right now. Start clapping right now. Start clapping right now. Start clapping right now. And give it up for Councilman Allen. Y'all can keep, he's not up here yet. You can keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going.
Thought I was going to have time to get a little sip of tea. Come on in. Hey everybody. Thank you all for coming out, but really thank you for helping have a conversation, bringing us together in this space that many of us have come to have tough conversations, to have tough farewells, to have a space in this this part of our community, Brian. We really appreciate you just every day open up your heart to all of us to come gather, to have the conversation to have. So just thank you very much for making sure Westminster is that space for us. So thank you. I know as we think about and reflect on and have this conversation around how our city both is and is not addressing a crisis that's in front of us. I know it hits home for a lot of us. I know every single person here is going to have somebody that they know, that they love, that they cherish, that has been impacted. And as a policymaker, I try to think about where are my spaces, both with my own lived experiences of knowing friends and neighbors that have struggled with substance use, that have overdosed and having lost people to overdose. And as a policymaker, what is the role that I can play in helping change what happens? In our city, and I'm probably not saying anything that people don't know here, we lose more lives to overdose every year than we do gun violence. And every single person in this room knows and understands how much of an emergency and how much of a crisis and how much of a priority gun violence is in our city. And yet it doesn't feel like the opioid overdose and the deaths have hit that crisis level the way that it should, that would compel us to act, that would compel the media to put a camera and a light on it every single day. And I think that when we look at what happens around the country, where the media brings their camera and their light all too often is the rural America story. Once you start seeing, and just real talk, once you start seeing a bunch of white kids overdosing and dying, everyone comes running into that space. In the district, the most likely overdose death in the district is going to be a black man over the age of 50. And I remember so stark. I was talking with Dr. Roger Mitchell, who is, I think, just a brilliant thinker in our city, and he was our medical examiner. And so his job was day in and day out having to deal with the loss and trauma and grief. And we're in a hearing and we're talking, and he's walking me through these numbers, and this is at a time when I'm getting new to this and I'm learning a lot. And I remember asking him, well, so what changes? Like, how do we change this? And he was very bold in his answer, speaking truth to power the way he should. And he said, well, either you got to do something different or we run out of 50-year-old black men. One of the two. And that really stuck with me about knowing we have to make changes. And I remember as a policymaker and as a legislator having an opportunity. It seemed awfully controversial at the time, and we will laugh at it now as being controversial. But we were thinking about could we dare to make testing strips of fentanyl legal? Like, that's where we were, that was a big debate and controversial topic. And we were wrestling with this, and we felt like it was this big, bold move, and we did it. Then I remember saying, all right, well, if we're going to really treat this as the substance use disorder and take a public health approach, then we need to think about decriminalizing paraphernalia for personal use. Like, that's not the right way, that we don't criminalize this. We have to treat this as the public health crisis that it is. And I remember the hearings. I had some folks come in uniform and come tell me how it was horrible. It was a horrible idea. But we went ahead and did it. And we took those steps. Now our conversations, well, I'll say one more. I remember when we said, I think we should have every police officer and firefighter carry naloxone on them. All right, that pushback on that one was, how are we going to store it? Going to have temperature controlled. How do you expect this to happen? 2 years later, once it was in effect, I have leadership from the fire department, leadership from the police department coming in and bragging about how many times they use it, how impactful it is, how many lives they save. We're going through a sea change. We are. I think our next conversations have to be also about, again, if we are taking a public health approach, can we politically get over the hurdle of thinking about, what does a safe use site look like? Can we do that? I think we can. And I think that's, I guess on one hand, I'm proud that we actually have made steps and we're doing better. I think it almost always comes from a place of being fairly timid, though, of being a little bit scared and buying into the different narratives and not really taking the big step. But every time we've taken a step, I absolutely believe we've actually saved lives. We've reached people where they are. And all the sky is falling rhetoric that we heard never came to pass. So I really am glad I'm able to join the conversation, to be able to listen and to be able to learn more. I think that as we continue to think about what are the next steps we take collectively as a city, I think we have to be able to be bold. And that's something that I know, I think that's the type of action I have to take. I think it's also the type of action I have to take if I want to be true to myself and true to the people that I know and loved that aren't here anymore. If I'm going to respect them, their life, I have to be willing to take that step. You have to be willing to take that risk, but also know that I've actually got an entire large community that understands why this is the right thing to do, understands the deep impact this has, that isn't on the camera, and it doesn't have the light shown on it all the time, but it's the right thing to do. And when you do the right thing, more often than not, you get rewarded and you see results. So thank you so much for having me join the conversation. I can't wait to listen and learn a little bit more tonight and to be with some friends here in this conversation. So thank you all very much.
I just want to say thank you for all that you're doing for the city. And to hear a politician get up and say, safe consumption site is really historic. But it's a move that we need to make. The federal government is kicking and screaming, but they're starting to talk about harm reduction. We need to be the role model for the world. So thank you.
Thanks, George.
So please give Councilman Allen one more round of applause. One takeaway that I appreciate from Councilman Allen is that they brought it up about making the testing strips legal and also about decriminalizing the paraphernalia. And the officers disagree with it. And then they did it anyway. I love that fact. And then the officers came back and told them how useful it was to carry the Narcan along with them. Thank you. So these are the testing strips right here. I actually have some. I work with Kenya Hutton on the Carolina Ballroom, the Capitol Ballroom Council. And so they put together whole packages, especially for gay pride, for overdose awareness. So you had your testing. Oh, they're back there. Those are the packets right there. I helped put those together. They have testing strips. They have Narcan for overdoses. And people actually, because I made a funny little video about it, and sometimes you have to attack things with humor in order to make it relatable so that people understand. So many people hit me up to tell me thank you for, promoting it and providing those kits because they're necessary. People have been doing drugs since the dawn of time. They are not going to stop, but we can provide them with the tools so that they don't die. And that's what I appreciate. I appreciate that. Please give Councilman Allen another round of applause. So I think we're about to do now is, let's see, give me 1 second. We're digital over here. Is Shahid Hans in the, nope, we're doing, all right. So we're going to go to our panelists. You're going to introduce yourselves and tell everybody where you're from and who you work for and why you're doing the work, okay? We can start with you.
Hi, my name is Autumn Yates. I'm a social worker. I'm originally from North Carolina, but now I work at, but now I work at George Washington University. We have a mobile unit that we actually provide people who use drugs with Suboxone. We provide them with ART to treat HIV as well as PrEP to prevent HIV. And we have a clinician that can provide other, clinical services to people. And I'm here because I have, lost loved ones to an overdose unintentionally. And it's hard, and I want to be able to give voice to them, and I want to be able to help prevent any more losses in the future.
Hello, y'all. I'm William. I'm from Brownstone, Oxford House. I'm a secretary in the house. I've been there for like 4 years. Oxford House has done a lot for me, you know. First and foremost, it has strengthened my sobriety, you know what I'm saying? And actually last week, we had a thing like we going to now for overdose at a house, at our Never House, in our chapter. And man, I can just go on and on about Oxford House. I came in Oxford House through a shelter, you know what I'm saying? And a brother that was in the house got me in the house, you know. But our house is empty. Need to let y'all know that, you know what I'm saying? If y'all know somebody who's trying to get in the Oxford House, because our house is, it got vacancies in there, so it's good. It was good for me to come here, you know what I'm saying? I like y'all little demonstrations, hope, peace, jazz, love, faith, life. Man, this thing is about life. It's about saving lives. And when before I came back in the house, I heard a guy died of overdose. And he OD'd in our house. And man, that's a powerful thing, man. I'm telling you, you got somebody that you can go to, man. That's a wonderful thing. And guys in my house, man, I love them. You know what I'm saying? I'm a construction worker. So that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? But it helps pay the bills. You know what I'm saying? And also I came up on 20 years, double digits, 20 years. But that came from, because I was in the Oxford House, you know. I was thinking about hanging around them guys, and I was thinking about going get another one. I said, nah, it ain't worth it, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I'm grateful to be here, you know what I'm saying? Appreciate the two speakers that spoke, you know. That's important, man, you know what I'm saying? And it could happen to me. If I think I'm so good, it can't nothing happen. It'll happen, man. You know what I'm saying? So, man, I'm grateful. I'm eternally grateful. And my name is William.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gail Avant. I am a provider and close friend of George, even if he didn't want to claim it. We are out there, boots on the ground in the community, and I have an organization called Total Family Care Coalition. And Councilman Allen, we are in Ward 6. We're in Potomac Gardens, and we've been there for 18 years. And I've seen transformation in the community. And you know, when I used to talk about Potomac Garden, people say, I can't come in there, but I like the work you're doing. But you know, I try to say to people, looks are deceiving. That community has been good for me. I have not experienced not one moment of fear. There are fearful things that happen around me, but I believe that if we are committed and chosen to do what we say we're going to do, we have all the protection we need. I am originally from South Carolina because the Carolinas is in the house grown, and I came to go to college, and I stayed. And I made a decision because it gave me an opportunity to further some things I wanted to do. But when you get married, life changes and things happen. So for me, it's personal because Total Family Care, we're a family-run organization. I'm not a clinician. I'm a parent. And the organization was founded by a parent. We wanted to know what was the behavior, what was driving the behavior of my church, our children, especially my little son. all over the neighborhood. And so that's when I learned about mental health. And mental health is a factor, from what I see, for a lot of people getting into drugs. And my son, I don't know, that was his factor. He was just going for the gusto. But he does drugs. And you know what saddened me was he convinced me he only did marijuana until I read one of his police reports and saw that the police had came to the place where he was living and had revived him twice. I was really heartbroken because my message every day is about recovery. And I'm a recovery provider by Department of Behavioral Health, but sometimes I get a little disappointed that I'm not really helping my son in the way I think, but I'm helping others. So sometimes we can't help ourselves, but helping to learn how to help what we think we helping ourselves, we end up doing a great job with helping somebody else. So it's always the saying that it's easier for somebody else to parent your child than for you to sometimes. So that's where the village come in. But then fentanyl, I really became a champion of the fentanyl. But first, you couldn't sell me on harm reduction. I didn't know what that was, and I deal with families, so I have to say in family court, harm reduction is not useful because they want the parent to be abstinent. So that's where I was, because I do a lot of work in family court, juvenile court, and with parent and child. But when I started thinking, well, we had to use every tool we can and every opportunity and to just keep people going until they can understand how to make that personal affirmation to say, I want to do something different. Like my brother over here said, he was talking to God. He was high. You know what? The spirit doesn't matter how you come in as long as you come. So when I was thinking about, sometimes I think about, wow, what can I do better with my son? But, my children is everybody I meet. My family is everybody I come around. And I'm happy to be in the mix of Potomac Garden because I'm able to see the parent walk the kids to school, walk them home, go to school events. So, when we think we know somebody, we don't. And I would appreciate Councilman Allen saying that he was a student of learning too, because I think I might have a little problem with you if you came in and said you was a know-it-all. Because but I was happy to hear that you were a good listener. And you know what? That's what it takes for us to be good listeners and go back and try to figure out what is it we can do that we doing now and we can do better. George and I have that conversation all the time. So happy to hear Councilman Allen, you having that, because that shows that you're a person who cares. And we do care about what happened in this community. This is my last little story. I was working with this young boy. He was like 13. And he came into my office with his mom, who was a heroin addict. And he had this backpack. And when we got Narcan, we became a Narcan distributor, so we can be right there in the community to give it out. He wanted some Narcan. He said, teach me how to do that. Because he know his mama was an addict. He know his mama would get into that nod. And he know he had to call the ambulance. So to prevent calling the ambulance so much, he learned how to do Narcan. But that was a good thing. But the thing was, he didn't want to go to school no more. He wanted to sit by and watch his mom. He became the protector. So we convinced him, no, you got to go to school. And the mom, she got on board and helped us convince him to go to school. The thing was, he went to school. He was so happy and reconnecting to the school, he kind of gave up the duty of being his mom protector and engaging back in his learning. One day, we got the call His mom OD'd. And when we broke the news to the young man, he said, I knew I shouldn't have went to school. But we said, you is where you're supposed to be. But look at the power of reconnecting the school to see a future. What a lot of people don't have is that future to reclaim, to reconnect, to reflect on where you want to be. But his mom just wanted him to be a kid. She was struggling. She was trying to figure out how to get in recovery, but sometimes it just doesn't come soon enough. But he's with some relatives, and he's still flourishing in school, and he's coming up as a senior. So he stopped. Sometimes we have to tell people, we relieve you of duty. We relieve you of duty, and I think that's the message that this young man has, and he already has his eyes set on what he wants to do. He wants to be a social worker too. So that is so wonderful. So thank you, everyone, for giving me the opportunity to say why I'm here. It's personal, but it's more than personal. It's necessary. So thank you.
Give all of our panelists a round of applause, please. I'm going to ask just a quick question for each of our panelists. I noticed something that is it Mr. Michael? Mr. William. Mr. William said about him having to go to the house and basically sequestering yourself, keeping yourself separate because you wanted to go back out to your friends and you wanted to go back out and indulge. Me, myself, I was living with my best friend, and the lease was up, like to, renew again, and I knew that if I stayed, I would not be able to break out. So I literally had to leave, and it was kind of last minute, so it's not like I could go apartment shopping or, I had to move into like a boarding house. It was the worst boarding house I have ever seen in my life. Like, I mean, the roaches was like, where your rent at? Where your rent at? Like, it smelled like dirty clothes all the time. But the action that I took to actually move away from the environment that I was in, it's what I needed. I needed that time, that downtime to think. I needed that downtime to be to myself. Why am I in this predicament? What is the root issue of what's going on? How important do you feel like it is to be sequestered away in like a house or a home or things of that nature? Do you feel like that pushed you over to, your double digits?
Yeah, I do. And it was also the work of God, man. That gave me a lot of, it got me comfortable in doing what I had to do. Most important, I ain't had to stand in no line. You know what I'm saying? I ain't had to do a lot of things. I just kept going and kept going and kept going. A lot of times, I think about my mom, what she used to say, keep pushing, keep going, don't give up. 10 minutes before the miracle, So I just kept going and kept going and kept going, And also, I just had a cousin that had a stroke. He's going for physical therapy now. Maybe he might see something in me. He said, I saw how that stuff worked for you, Bill. I might want to try it too. Yeah. He got like 9 months. He had a stroke like last year. So that's family, you know what I'm saying? And it's all about it. Then I call my sponsor every day too. When that time happened, when I felt like I want to do it.
Was your sponsor in-house or out?
Well, he was out.
Okay.
But I inbox him all the time. Good morning, sponsor, how you doing? Then he'll text back, That's the only sponsor I ever had. You know what I'm saying? But thank God for the program, man.
And in saying that, and I also want to let the other panelists discuss the being sequestered away, but like you said, you were in the house, you thought about your mom in certain ways, you reached out to your sponsor. I don't think that there's one specific way that's going to work for everybody. Like, there are various ways that people come up out of recovery, and I think that us exploring those different ways will allow us to reach different communities. How do you feel about being sequestered away?
I had to go to the wilderness too. So I was in domestic violence marriage for a long time, and I was telling my good friend that in order for me to come out of that state of mind thinking I had to stay in there in that abusive relationship, I had to start thinking like I was a drug addict. I was addicted. I was afraid, but it seemed like I was addicted to try to fix somebody. So that's really how my life kind of took a different path. Before then, I was one of the great achievers, overachiever, had my own business, and thought I was living life, but it was a fake life. So when I filed for the divorce, my husband took all my kids away from me. We were living in Maryland at the time and took them to Boston. He told them, forget your mom, because she's dead. And really, I was like a walking dead person because I couldn't figure out how to get out of the box. So when he took the kids, it was very devastating. So I changed scenery. I went to Philadelphia. I didn't know anyone. And I got me a roach-infected apartment.
Team Roaches!
Yeah, roaches. And I got me a job, and I started thinking, praying too, but thinking, how could I let myself get into this? And how could I fool myself that what I was living, the way I was living, was not going to affect my children? And money is not, we had the money. We were living large. But living large is not the answer if it's not for real. You have, like they say, you have to build a house on a solid foundation. My foundation wasn't solid. But when I had time to reflect and be in a city where my husband didn't know anybody, it gave me the strength to reconnect, to reflect on where I came from. What was the upbringing that I had? Was I supposed to be this destined to do this? But then when I came back to D.C. and started getting my kids back, because I had to go through the court system, I learned to appreciate every little pain I endured, because guess what? The families and the parents I work with, they've been through the same. So that's our lived experience. And so when they say, Miss Avon, you don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, you got 15 minutes? Because I can tell you, I do. And I think that's the beauty of doing the work from my approach to peer support, is working with parents to let them know, you're no different than me, and I'm no different than you. We're all human beings at the end of the day. So let's see what we can do together.
Now, I don't know, it seems like, now I'm just putting it out there, I don't know if roaches are like a common theme for recovery. We might need to experiment to see. I don't know.
Thank you. So I don't have lived experience. All of my family has substance use disorders. I work with people who use drugs. But I've noticed just from my own, I guess, personal experiences with my mother that, she does kind of sequester herself and she actively uses substances. And it hasn't been helpful for her. She kind of is self-isolated and alone, I'm sure with roaches.
See?
Recovery might be on the way. But for my brother, it did work for him to be around, to go through like a treatment center, to go through detox with people who were in the same situation as him, who really knew what he was going through. And he has 10 years now and he's doing really well, and I think it works.
Good deal, good deal. Thank you. I appreciate all of your candor and honesty. I think we're going to have some recorded spoken word at this moment. Nope, not going to happen? All right. So let's see what's next on the agenda. Do we have William Jackson here? William Jackson is absent. All right, I'm marking him absent. Okay, no problem whatsoever. So I read this statistic yesterday that in DC, 80% of the overdoses are black people. What can we do to combat that specifically, in your own personal opinion and professional opinion?
I think I need a crystal ball for this one.
Crystal balls, tell me
Crystal
all.
ball. No roaches, crystal ball. But you know, I work in the community and I'm located there, and I be thinking that what can I do? What is the driving factor behind what I'm seeing? So I believe part of it is in public housing, because that's where I'm located, and that's where I do a lot of my work, in all the public housing around this city. And I look at the families and the children and the generation that they've been there. But if you look at the purpose of the public housing, was like a transit place, a transition place. It wasn't meant to be there. They wasn't meant to be there forever. It was a place for people to get themselves together. But then you look at the history, it became an entitlement. It became a rite of passage for people to live in public housing. So I think somewhere along the line, not knowing, but people kind of lost their way and lost their dreams and lost the fact that we can be independent and self-sufficient. We need a little help, but the little help became the major driver to say, I'm entitled to this. I don't have to do nothing. The government take care of me. But I encourage people to take your life back, because when you living in public housing, really, there's a lot of restriction on what you can do and not do. So what they do, they go hide in the apartments and in the home, and they do drugs and they OD. And one of the important things that George and I has been learning, most overdoses take place inside. And why is that? Because we do a good job at outreaching in the community, talking about Narcan, talking about recovery. So we kind of like run them inside like roaches. So, but what I try to instill in the families and the youth I work with is, you are your own person. You can be whatever you want to be. It's good to get some help from the government, but don't lose your sight and your place. Kids look to parents to say how they should be kids in the community. And if kids, and then you have to look at the generational cycle of abuse, which means that the parents was in the same setting, the grandparents, they didn't know how to get out either. It's kind of like you get stuck. And you don't believe, I don't want to go out the gate, I don't want to go outside, but there's safety out there. So I think if we keep supporting the families, the individual, we keep saying that there is life at the end of the tunnel. You can read, you can be anything you want to be. And it's okay to not know how to ask for help, but ask for help.
Thank you.
Gail just touched on something, and that's people at home doing drugs by themselves. And we know that no amount of Narcan will help that individual. And so we need to really, and Ward 6 has the highest number of that happening here. And so I just found out about an organization, Never Use Alone. No judgment, no shaming, no preaching, just love. You call this 1-800-484-3731. 1-800-484-3731. You call there, they ask you for your first name and your exact location. They stay on the phone with you while you consume. If you become unresponsive, they call EMS. And so this is really important to start getting this word out that this is happening and that we really need to be in conversation. If you know someone that's actively using, give them a call. Just check on them. Non-judgmentally checking on them is really key.
Good deal, George. Thank you for that. And can I read the number one more time for those who are watching live? It's no judgment, no shaming, no preaching, just love. Never use alone. 1-800-484-3731. Again, that's 1-800-484-3731. I'm going to ask a question. Where are my providers at that are in the audience? Where are oh, go ahead. You want to say something?
You know, because we're doing improv right now. So I'm going to ask someone to come up and tell her story. Oh. You know, you only had to mention it, and it was going to happen.
Hey, everybody. My name is Jean, and I just want to have a moment of silence for the funeral of who we lost in this community to the opioid crisis, just for a moment, and all the others that day. I've been kind of blown away by the experience that everybody has brought here today, so thank you. My brother has 30 years sober. He overdosed 13 times, and he used to tell me, he was raised in LA, I was born and raised in DC, that if you drive down Hollywood Boulevard, he knew every public restroom that opened so that he could go and use. He used to go to a different country to get off what he was doing, but of course, just like you said, you get into the environment again, and it all comes back. I just wanted to say, my husband's not here, and it's too hard for him to understand this. He choked up when I said where I was coming tonight. He had a brother who, was involved in some stuff, the youngest of 5, and he was clean, and he had a toothache on Thanksgiving. Went to the dentist, and Zach was told, it's too complicated, I can't deal with it now, you got to take some antibiotics for it to calm down. Then he went to the orthodontist the day after and was told the same thing. And he's an electrician, and he went to work the next day, and his boss knew he was suffering. He worked through it and called an old friend on the way home, who gave him, he just said, I need to make it till I can get to the doctor on Monday. Do you have anything I can take that's just a painkiller? And it was laced, and his parents found him in his work truck in the driveway the next morning. And I remember seeing him at his funeral. His jaw was so ajar. It was, he didn't look like himself. So he was 39, and he had saved $30,000. He had gotten his act together. He was teaching his nieces and nephews how to drive stick on the sly, and made them tacos every Tuesday. And we just had a taco reunion for his birthday this summer. So his name was Zach, and I can't imagine the endless stories. I saw my brother go through withdrawal 4 or 5 times, and I remember when I was about 9, he came to visit from LA, and he was changing the radio station because he was the music guru of the family, and it got stuck in the static, and he nodded off. And then we were in the ER. But addiction, I don't know a lot about it. I do know that it becomes, at your lowest point, unsustainable. That your life is no longer sustainable. So you stop remembering things, you stop building relationships, you stop growing. and you stop dreaming. It's all about sort of figuring out around the edges how you're going to make it work. And I don't know what to do in this neighborhood. I love this neighborhood more than you know. And I will work every day and every night to build up the harm reduction stuff and all the ideas that we have. And some of them were created in this room, actually, thanks to George convening the Department of Behavioral Health and other folks who are experts in this field. But I'm here. My name is Jean, and I'm really glad to be with you guys tonight.
All right, please give her one more round of applause. Thank you so much for sharing your story. We're going to go ahead and start to wrap this up with final thoughts. So if we could just go ahead and we'll start over here. Final thoughts.
My final thoughts are that we just need to decriminalize substance use and create a safe consumption site so that no more people need to needlessly die from an unintentional overdose.
My final thoughts is I want to thank y'all for giving me the information. It's amazing how you can get information. People sitting right beside you. You know, she said it all, you know what I'm saying? And a provider, you know. I'm trying to be that provider, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just trying to do what I have to do for my house. You know what I'm saying? And I'm grateful, man. You know, I wouldn't trade this thing for nothing to go back to where I came from. You know, I wouldn't want nobody to go in that kind of place. You know, but I appreciate everything I heard. Thank you. And now I can save lives, because like she was saying, it helps. You know, people all over, man, they dying. You know what I'm saying? And I wish they can, there's a lot of guys that's around our house, they can use it. You know what I'm saying? Things they going through, man. You know what I'm saying? Wow, amazing. You know, I appreciate everything, man. I do, really, from the bottom of my heart. You know, I ain't sure for words, you know. Y'all gonna have to stop me from talking.
Final thought is we have to keep doing the work, George. Because we have those subtle ripples in the community. People have to ingest and digest the information when they can. And they in a roach-infested places too, you know what I mean? But I appreciate all the panel that is here today and gracious MC, because this is a safe place. We can be ourselves. We can be vulnerable. And we can say what is troubling us, but we can also have hope for a future. So I'm full of hope and faith. So I'm going to keep on working so I can get older.
Thank you all. Again, thank my panel one more time. Give them a round of applause, the panel. Thank you to Health HIV. Thank you to Reverend Hamilton. I appreciate you and Westminster Presbyterian Church, D.C. for the work that you're doing. We appreciate you. We appreciate the space. George, give a round of applause for George. Also, give a round of applause for Southwest Catering, who provided the wonderful, amazing food. It was delicious. As soon as they brought it out, y'all started eating. Y'all got all quiet. Well, no more conversations. We appreciate you. We're going to bring George back up, and I thank you all from the bottom of my heart.
Once again, I just want to thank you. But one thing that was kind of talked about, but we need to speak it louder, recovery plus harm reduction is in our toolkits. We cannot continue pitting them against each other. We need to work hand in hand. And so the harm reduction at Westminster believes in this philosophy. This church believes in this philosophy. I wouldn't be able to do the work that I did do if it wasn't this church saying, yes, George, we support you, go do you. So thanks, everyone, and have a great evening. We'll see you next year.